Welcome back to today's episode of Words of the Wise. Today I have Chief Ken Roske from Pasco PD. I'm really looking forward to this conversation. He's really focused on wellness and organizational wellness. So welcome to the show, Chief Roske. Thank you so much for being here.
Thanks, Paige. Looking forward to the conversation.
I am as well. I was hoping that you could give us a little bit of background. Who
Yeah,
is Chief Roske?
yeah. So I've been the chief in Pasco for 5 years. Fortunate to spend all of my policing career in Pasco. Worked my way up through the ranks like probably most police chiefs. I didn't start out ever thinking I wanted to rise in the ranks. Certainly be the chief, but as opportunities arise, as you find the drive to want to do better, that you pursue those promotional opportunities, whether you maybe personally want them or not, but you become committed to your peers and your organization. And that was kind of what drove me at each of the promotional steps along the way. And then obviously as the chief today.
It's so interesting that you say that because I would say 90% of the Chiefs that I've talked to have said something similar of like, I never ever wanted to be chief. I never wanted to be in leadership. But one of the things I hear all the time is, you know, I wanted to maybe do something better than what was currently being done. And so the only way to make change in the way that maybe they wanted to was to promote. And I think that it's a message that, one, I think professional development, whether you become a chief or not, is always rewarding, to feel like you have forward momentum and you're continuing to grow. But I also think that sometimes you can learn from other people in maybe not what to or what not to do or how to do things
Yeah,
better. Maybe I can say that a little bit more professionally, but maybe how to improve some things.
yeah, and I think you're right. You watch other leaders, other people you work for, you take things from them that you want to emulate and expand upon, and of
Yeah.
course things that you want to never do and change and pivot where the organization's going. But with never thinking I would be seated in this chair, certainly not for 5 years, and not certainly not during the challenges that we've seen over the last 5 years across the country. It's extremely rewarding, and I love being the chief, not for the title, but I love taking care of this community, this department, and our people that we have in it, and making them inside the department and outside the department strong as they can to be the very best police department. Um, and I'm a little biased, certainly in the country here in Pasco. So.
Yeah, and I think, everyone I talk to and I think it's not exclusive to law enforcement, but I think especially in law enforcement, everyone has this heart for service and wanting to leave the agency better than they found it, wanting to change the world and help the community as much as they possibly can. And so I always love having these conversations because I can feel that from you, where you're like, I just want to do the best I can for my community and for my people. And so I think that that's at the core of what law enforcement stands for.
Absolutely. Yeah, spot on.
I wanted to ask you because we're obviously here to talk about wellness, and I know that that's something that is important to you. What does wellness mean to you? What is the definition of wellness for you?
Yeah, I think obviously not taking the dictionary meaning, but from a law enforcement profession, from a police chief, trying to guide a department and make sure that all of our staff are as prepared and healthy is the complete circle of wellness.
Yeah.
Um, I think when I started in this profession, and wellness was thought of a couple of things. Do you go to the gym, run, and lift weights? And there was still a significant number of people, police officers, that smoked. So wellness was, can we get you to stop smoking? And hey, maybe go to the gym sometimes. That was wellness. Never, never a thought of the holistic approach to cardio, nutrition, um, mental wellness, your mind, and your body as a whole,
Yeah.
and ensuring that not only all of that while you're at work, but also while you're at home. And wellness also includes all of that for your family. We can't be selfish and only take care of ourselves. At the end of the day, when we go home, whether we have visible wounds or visible scars, we have those in this profession, and somebody has to take care of that of us, and that's our family that ends up. So we have to make sure completely wellness is it encompasses our families as well.
I've been in this wellness space for the last 8 years, and I have seen the evolution even in that short period of time of what wellness looks like now versus what it looked like 8 years ago. And we know, 2020 was kind of a pivotal moment where a lot of things started to change as well. But I really appreciate that the word holistic is starting to become part of like normal vocabulary because before when, 8 years ago, if I were to walk into not everyone, obviously everyone is going to be different. Every department's going to have a different culture and maybe some are more progressive than others. But I know from my experience, some of the departments I would walk into, if I were to say, we're trying to prioritize holistic wellness, everyone's eyes would roll. They'd be like, who is this girl? Like, what is going on here? Like, that word is like hippy dippy woo woo stuff. And now I think people are really starting to appreciate what that means, what that word means. And it's not, this like intangible hippie idea. It's actually how can we make you more whole? How can we take a look at all the various aspects of wellness that matter, that make you complete? And I know you mentioned a lot of them. It's like, how can we make sure that physically you're really well, mentally you're good, financially you're stable and you're set up for success? How can we make sure that your home life is healthy and well? And so I think if we can look at it as the spelling, maybe change it to like WHOLE,
Right, right.
holistic. How can we make you as whole as possible?
Yeah.
And, maybe if there are still a few eye rolls in the room, people can get on board with that.
Yes. Yeah, I agree. I think you mentioned something just because I don't want it to get left out as we talk about this profession. And each organization has a culture.
Mm.
And I think healthy cultures um, embrace wellness. They embrace taking care of each other inside the organization. We pride ourselves not just uh, not just at the Chiefs level, but in the organization, all across our officers and our professional staff at a positive culture. Um, you know, I want and we want everybody to enjoy coming to work. It's okay to want to be here. It's okay to wake up and want to be in this organization. And I think part of that culture, though, is also appreciating a nice workout facility, trying to make sure that we have programs in place, and we want to continue to expand on those. We have a number of them, but we want to expand on those. So I just don't want to leave culture sitting out there without addressing it and how important it is to the success of any police department. If you're just looking to, you know, other police chiefs out there, if you're trying to, the success of your organization is going to come down to culture and how strong that culture is. But then I think wellness, all the wellness programs in the world, if you don't have a culture that embraces it in your organization, it's for naught.
Yeah. No, I think that a lot of people who are listening and a lot of people I've talked to agree with that there has to be a strong, healthy culture. But I also know that there are a lot of agencies out there that struggle with that. And do you have any strategies, or any secret sauce that you can share that has helped you to create that healthy, positive culture over time?
Yeah, I don't know if I have a secret sauce, but I have a few things that I think have helped drive a positive culture that has spilled over into um, seeing our wellness program continue to evolve. It's not complete; it's evolving, and we constantly change that. Leaders in an organization that starts at my level is making sure you're out where you're approachable, um, and you're focusing on the positive things in the department, in the profession, and in the community. There's so much negative rhetoric that gets thrown at law enforcement. I
Mm.
think as a leader of the organization, to try and find the optimistic areas and focus on those, because um, law enforcement really is continuing to evolve. It's the aside from what anybody tells you of the good old days, they were fun, absolutely. But the profession is so much better than it's ever been today. We are so much healthier, so much safer, make more money, benefit packages. And so I think making sure that we focus on those things. And then I expect all of our leaders in this organization to model the behavior that we want to see from our officers. And I really, really believe that if we don't have a culture inside the organization, if me and the leaders, our officers inside the organization, aren't doing things in a positive fashion, how can we expect our officers to treat the public with positivity and compassion if we aren't doing it inside the organization? So I don't know if it's secret sauce, but I think that some keys to establishing the culture are making sure your chief has to be involved in daily operations of what's going on. Trust me, my days of being a street cop are over. I miss it. I loved it, and it's a perishable skill. But that's no excuse not to be in our break room, not to be recognizing our officers when they do good things. And you have never, as a leader in an organization, you can never check that box and say, I did enough. There's always something more you can be doing.
Yeah, no, thank you. I really like that. And one of the things you said about having a positive mental attitude and to try to find the positive in things. And I think that that is a trained skill, and it's mental training. It really is because there was some statistic I actually saw recently, and I talked about this one other time on this podcast, but I think it's 85% of our thoughts are negative.
Hmm.
And it was something along the lines of like 90% of our thoughts are repetitive. So
Oh,
you are
wow.
constantly having negative thoughts, right? It's like the default mode of your brain is to like think about negative things, to take in negative things, to talk about
Probably
negative.
how we survive, right?
I'm sure, yeah. And so to rewire your brain to think about and to talk about positive things and have a positive mental attitude, I think is something that is a trained skill and it's something that is challenging but totally doable. And I think if you start with that awareness of, are the conversations that we're having all the time, are they productive or are they negative? And how can we have that awareness first, and then how can we start to take the steps towards more of a positive attitude? Because I do think that both of them spread.
Yes.
Negativity will spread throughout a community or throughout an agency, but so will positivity. And it just takes that first step of awareness of like, okay, are we thinking and talking in a negative fashion or in a productive and positive fashion?
Yeah, I think you can go into any organization. It could be a retail outlet store.
Yeah.
It could be a police department, and you can walk in, and the vibe is one way or the other. Maybe it's just middle of the road. Well, I want our vibe to be positive. I mentioned it a minute ago. I want you to want to come to work. I like coming to work every day, and I want as much as we can. We absolutely have bad parts of our day. I understand that. Fortunately, most of what we do is positive. It's good. It's a great feeling to ensure that we are making sure people aren't further victimized. We're holding people in the community accountable. We're helping little old ladies across the street. That's a great thing. You should feel good about that. Yes, I understand. We see the worst of the worst. We hold dead babies. We hold crying mothers. We see the worst that gunshot victims can throw at us, but that's a small portion of our day, fortunately. So let's focus on helping the little lady across the street. Let's keep those thoughts and that perspective when you come back into the police department.
Yeah.
And I think talking wellness, we need to make sure that we are preparing ourselves mentally with mental armor to deal with the tragedies that we see, right? We're all aware of that. And that's mental health and dealing with those tragedies. And then I think mental health is also going ahead and feeling good about embracing the other aspect of this profession, arresting bad guys and holding people accountable so other people aren't victimized. Gosh, what a great feeling. You took somebody and ensure that although there was somebody victimized, there's not going to be more people victimized because of the great work that you did as a police officer.
Yeah, I like that a lot. And, honestly, in my life, I've had to learn how to focus on the positive because you're right. A lot of times, and I've had this I'll take a personal story. I've had this in my relationship, and maybe people can understand this, where I get in this like cycle where I'm like, you always do this and you never do that. And it's always, and then my partner would have to say, hey, pause for a second. Did you notice when I did this and this? And we had fun here and we laughed over here. And I'm like, oh my gosh, you're right. It's like my brain blocked it out and just wanted to focus on the negative instead of understanding that there are far more positive things to focus on and there's different perspectives that we can have. And again, I think it goes back to that mental training, but I also think if you have that culture where people are holding each other accountable and you guys are
Mm-hmm.
teaching these things and you're reminding people of these things, it's helpful. And I really appreciate that perspective. And I was like really like amped after you talked. I was like, the old lady was helped across the street. I love that.
don't you feel good? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, embrace that.
100%. I know when you and I talked offline, you had mentioned that it's not a one size fits all with wellness, and you really try to have resources that, everyone feels like they're supported within the organization. You actually have a fairly, mid to large agency, depending on how you look at it, but
Right.
larger than a lot of agencies I've talked to, and you have over 100 employees that you're supporting. And I'm curious maybe what strategies or how are you putting in place resources that cater to different personalities and different people who need different things?
Yeah. So, fortunately, I have a great team, a great staff of very talented individuals here. Whether that's mental support, peer support, nutrition, physical fitness. Um, my team is awesome, and they're bringing lots of ideas. Um, I guess the difficult part for me is to execute which ones at which time. Where can we find budget dollars to pay for all of the great programs? But in the organization where I have sworn police officers, civilian staff, professional staff, and we even host a regional police academy for the state. So we'll have brand new recruits here, 2 blocks from headquarters at the academy, and so the instructors that are there, you can just see everybody's got a little different challenges to this profession, civilians alike, professional staff. And so, what do they need? And trying to have um, everything available to them for their mental, physical, nutritional, spiritual, whatever it may be. And it's not easy. And I don't think we have all of the answers by any means, but we are getting better. And I have to credit the staff that I have at bringing different ideas. A couple of those just that are a little different is performance coaching, ensuring that each of our officers has a professional coach that they can talk to in the very best of times. Maybe things are going just fine, but they want to get better at something. We have the coach can help them through that, or obviously the very worst day that they're having, right?
Yeah.
uh, and then as we a program that we are um, helping our new officers as they graduate from the police academy, within a couple of days, our peer support team and our team inside the department will meet with them and their immediate family members um, outside of work and spend an hour, hour and a half just talking about what it's like to have a police officer in your family now and how you fit into that important role. And they talk about the challenges that their loved one is going to bring home to them and how they can survive that. I think movies, probably just peer groups out there, families get scared, not necessarily for the well-being, but they understand law enforcement has a significant number of divorces. They have a significant number of financial difficulties. We all know suicide is extremely high in this profession. And as a family, that's got to be extremely scary. So,
Yeah.
how can we help them understand that we're going to do everything we can do to minimize any of those negative impacts and make sure that they have the support and the tools to help the brand new officer, police officer, and the family be successful?
I am a really huge proponent for being proactive. And a lot of those things to me sound like you're trying to get in front of it, right? You're
Yes.
trying to start as early as possible at an academy level. You're trying to prepare the families in advance. We're trying to, reduce the risk of injury, reduce the risk of burnout, mental health issues, et cetera. And one of the things that you had said earlier, and I actually have written it down now twice, is that you are always evolving and trying to grow. And I really appreciate that because I don't think that there's ever a destination. I think that as times change, things change, and needs are always going to change, and there's always going to be opportunity to get better and to adjust or to provide different or more things. And so I really like that approach of how can we continue to evolve and support as much as you can. I also like the idea of performance coaching and even just the verbiage. We know that if you say things a certain way, that people get on board with it. And I always used to make the joke of just like throw tactical in front of anything and everyone
Right.
on board, right? But I think that if you can say, hey, like everything that we're going to do right now is to try to um, increase your performance to, performance coaching, rather than sometimes I think if you're like, oh, it's wellness something, then people are like, eh. But if you're like, no, it's performance coaching, it feels different. Do
Right.
you find that the way that you present information and the way that you approach things has helped to get more of that buy-in and the receptiveness and get people excited about what you guys are doing?
Yeah, I think that when you take an approach with the officers, your staff, that they're not broken. There's nothing wrong with them. You were just fine when we hired you. You've had an incredible couple of year career, maybe a couple decade career. You've seen a lot, and so making sure that they understand that there's nothing wrong with them.
Mhm.
We have services out there, people out there to help them. They're not broken, and so um, whatever we can do to diminish that thought process that you're a police officer. The data is out there about how many more violent incidents you will see compared to the average person's astronomical. Throw all that out of the window. Don't worry about that. Let's just worry about making sure that you are as healthy as we can. You've seen these challenges. We're going to make sure you have the tools to succeed. And then I think another piece that we have to be able to pivot um, as a profession in the wellness area is the different generations that
Mm.
we are hiring. And you can talk about this generation or that generation. They're not like we were. They don't have a work ethic. Whatever. You've seen all the stories. I appreciate this generation that we are hiring today. They bring an awful lot to the table. And even if I didn't, uh, they are who we have. And I think your wellness programs have to be able to pivot to the generations that come along. And I think generationally where they are in their professions. So to say one size fits all in your wellness program is why we are never totally complete because
Yeah.
our workforce and our people can. continue to change. So it has to evolve.
I think you're exactly right that the message is not you're broken. I have had personal experiences where, I had um, trauma that built up over time. I didn't process the things in the way that I should have because I wanted to be tough and,
Right.
I didn't want people to know that I was hurting. And so I buried it under the surface for a really long time. And I ended up reaching a breaking point, and I actually had a therapist that made me feel broken, made me feel worse. And I I know what that feels like. I know like when you finally have like the courage to be like, I need something. And then instead of figuring out how you can have that like trajectory forward and how you can find more of that resilience in like the true way, the true fashion, right? Of being able to like be good and not
Right.
pretending to be good and bearing everything down. When you have that courage to be like, okay, this has reached a point and in my hope is that, no one reaches that point where they're at a breaking point, that there are, ways to offload some of those things,
Right.
throughout the way that is not stigmatized, that it's like, hey, like that was a really hard thing that you went through and totally normal to feel like that's hard. Like, what can we do to help you to process those things and to
Right.
move forward and to grow from those things and thrive, in spite of or because of those things. But I had that experience where I did not want to walk into that room. It took me,
Uh,
my feet felt like there was lead,
uh,
like trying to trudge in there and having someone make me feel worse and make me feel broken. I know what that feels like. And I really appreciate you saying that because it's about how can we get people to feel the best and be the best.
you know,
And-
I've talked to a lot of chiefs who their biggest concern, mine too, is that we get officers who've seen trauma, who have issues going on. They need some help,
Mm,
but the professional that they are seeking is just focused on how broken they are
mhm.
versus yes, you've seen a lot. We're gonna give you tools to get you over this and make you feel better. And I can tell you,
Yeah.
many chiefs are concerned about sending their people to the wrong doctor. And I don't mean doctor in the actual, but therapist, helper, whatever, counselor, um, and getting that botched up a surgery in mental health. And so trying to find the right area, and chiefs are concerned about that.
Yeah. Well, I think that the idea has to be that G, right? It's like that post-traumatic growth or
Oh
that
yeah.
growth step. It's like, how can you, like you said, how can you have the things to be able to keep going in life, and to have a successful life and to know that there is opportunity for you to thrive, there are resources that can help you to get there. And I think that for me, for the longest time, I didn't realize that there was a G stage. Like I didn't
Yeah.
know it could like grow from it. And I think that if I would have stopped there with that one particular person, it would have been such a detriment to me. But I, fortunately had other people in my life that helped me through that, and I was able to find different resources. But I really like this idea of how can we have mental resiliency? How can we have wellness resources that are going to help you to grow?
You're right. Yeah, I agree. And I think every chief is looking at how do they do that in their organizations. We've seen too many professional police officers leave the profession because we couldn't get them the services they need, and they ended up becoming broken. So
Yeah.
and we couldn't bring them back.
Yeah.
So I think that's the and your podcast, all the work that you do, is centered around exactly that, and hence our comments earlier. The profession has never been in a better place than it is now, and although we're far from being perfect and far from being where me as a police chief or you as a professional want us to be, but we are certainly on the right track, and that's exciting.
I agree. And, we talked a little offline and I told you, I was having these really invaluable conversations with leadership like yourself, where I was hearing all of these experiences where people were like, man, like I went through this and if I would have had resources earlier, maybe it would have XYZ. Like
Right.
maybe I wouldn't have had the injuries that I did, or maybe it would have helped me in my marriage, or maybe it would have, helped me to process the things that I've gone through. And I think that there's so much power in having conversations and showing people that like and I know it sounds so cliche to say like you're not alone, but it's true. And I think that when you can start to hear other people's stories and them saying like, yeah, like I've been there. Like I maybe not exactly, but I know what it feels like to XYZ. My hope is that that starts to spread and it becomes more of a normal conversation of like, man, okay, like Chief Roske said this and like that resonated with me and now I feel like empowered to go
Right.
and improve myself and to get the help that I need in certain areas in my life. And so I said this before, but I appreciate you coming on here and sharing what you guys are doing and I agree that the momentum is moving in a really positive direction. And my final question for you, because I know that you've been through a really long career and you've, I would imagine, have seen a lot and you have experienced a lot yourself. What words of wisdom would you share with someone who's earlier in their career? Maybe something that you wish you would have known earlier or something that's helped you along the way.
Yeah. So not necessarily um, in the workplace mental health well-being category, um, but I think it does all come back full circle is to chase your dreams. This profession has an awful lot to offer professionally, and had I not chased whatever dream was out there in this profession, I wouldn't be where I am today, and I wouldn't have had as many. I wouldn't be as accomplished um, in the work that I had done. But because I wasn't the best at anything, but I wasn't afraid to chase it, and so whatever it might have been, the best assignment in a police department as a canine handler. I was fortunate to work two dogs, and that I just chased that dream. I wasn't the most eligible person out there. I was just barely off my 2 year mark as a police officer. There's no way they're ever gonna give me a dog, and they did.
Mhm.
And then chase the next dream, and I chased the next dream. And so I think I would tell people to continue to chase your dreams.
Thank you. I appreciate your time so much. I wanted to give you the floor. If I missed anything, if there's anything else you want to add, I'll kind of let you close out because that's all I have for you.
No, I don't have anything other than to just say thank you. Um, all of the work that you have done to bring light, and hopefully police officers watching this realize that, hey, I'm going to be just fine. There are resources out there for me at wherever I am, performance coaching, whatever it might look like, physical fitness. It's out there for me. And so thank you.
Of course. Thank you. I appreciate your time. And thank you to everyone who's listening. And we'll see you again next time.